2023 to order. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes. If we would stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our mission statement. The mission of the Trotwood-Madison City Schools is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by innovative and dedicated staff, community participation, and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulating atmosphere. Now, I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second as stated.
Moved by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Davis. Are there any changes?
Yes, there is one change. In item B3 on the personnel agenda, I would like for you to remove the second name for today's vote. B3 on the personnel agenda, remove the second name for today's vote. And that's all I have.
Okay. One moment. Okay. If there are no other changes, Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry,
Yes.
and Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the agenda is approved with the change to item B3, the second name on the personnel agenda under B3. And now, board report. We have provided to the high school principal the student representative questionnaire to fill out and to be back to the board by the 15th. So hopefully, at least by the first meeting in October, we will have our student representatives seated. Was there any comments, questions on that? If not, we will move to the treasurer's report.
Yes, I just have one item this evening for information. It is the approval of minutes for August the 10th, 2023 work session and the August 17th, 2023 regular meeting. And that's all I have this evening.
Okay. We're under superintendent's report.
All right, I don't have a lot either today. The first thing is the student activity purpose statement and budget for the MD functional class. The activity goal is to learn vocational applications in a school setting that would later help the MD students with future vocational endeavors. The objective is to provide funds for vocational activities and awards. For revenue, they had a carryover balance from last year of $896.47. Fundraising sales, the amount is $2,000. Total proposed income is $2,000. Total estimated revenue would be $2,896.47. For expenditures for this year, they would do a visit to Windmill Farm, Laser Web at Dayton, Golden Corral, Polking Lanes, and MCL Cafeteria for a total of $1,815 And since that's less than the anticipated revenue, that's fine.
Okay.
And then, the next is the impractical for Trotwood-Madison City School Transportation. In accordance to ORC Section 3327.02, the following is a list of schools that are considered impractical for the Trotwood-Madison City School Transportation Department to transport its students. The students that attend the schools listed will be eligible for in lieu of payment according to the state established dollar amount in the spring of this school year. Those individual students claiming the in lieu of payment will be identified by the Board of Education approval also in the spring. And then,
So for, just a question on that one.
yes,
So these are the schools where we have students that have applied for enrollment to those. So we don't have the actual numbers per school yet.
right, we don't have the numbers of students that actually will be attending these schools, but
Okay.
these are schools that they have the opportunity to go to that would be impractical for us to
Oh, okay.
transport.
Okay. Thank you.
I do know, I think we've talked about, that the price for in lieu is going up a little bit, but we'll find out again for sure in the spring.
Okay.
Okay, and then, I have the approval of the personnel agenda. A1 is approval, recommendation for the approval of the following certified resignation for the 2023-24 school year. I'm sorry, could we back up? This does need to be, action taken tonight. I was, asked if we could do that, and that is the transportation, the school transportation.
You mean for the personnel agenda in total?
No,
She said
the
B.
piece I just did,
Oh,
the schools
okay.
impractical. Yeah, and now again, we will bring it, it'll come back in the spring when we have names, and we will approve those for the people to do it, but the fact that we are deeming some schools impractical.
Okay,
So if we could take a vote on
okay,
that.
You're gonna have to change the agenda, it's information only on the agenda.
okay. Ms. Allen, if we would note to change the agenda for the superintendent's item 4B to action instead of information.
I need to take a vote because they already
And we-
voted for this.
Okay,
As presented.
so I'll take a motion.
I'll move that we change superintendent report item B from information only to action, and that is for the school impractical for Trotwood-Madison City Transportation. I'll second.
Been properly moved and second to change this item 4B from information to action. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Was that, Mrs. Cherry that seconded?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes, the motion passes to change it from information to action. And now I'll take a motion to approve the list of schools identified to be impractical to transport.
I'll move to accept superintendent's report item B, schools and practicality for Trotwood City School Transportation as presented.
Second.
Properly moved by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Anderson. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes. The
Thank-
action is approved.
Thank you. Okay, and now, I would like to have approval after we go through the certified personnel agenda. A1, recommendation for the approval of the following certified resignations for the 23-24 school year. A2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified limited one-year contract for the 23-24 school year. A3 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified adjustments in training for the 23-24 school year. A4 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified supplemental contract for the 23-24 school year. A5 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified staff to be used on an as-needed basis for the 23-24 school year. A6 is a recommendation for the approval of the following certified adjustment in pay for the 23-24 school year. B1 is our classified agenda, recommendation for the approval of the following classified resignation for the 23-24 school year. B2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified new hires for the 23-24 school year. B3 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified supplementals for the 23-24 school year without B3 number 2. B4 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified staff to be used on an as-needed basis for the 23-24 school year. B5 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified staff to be used on an as-needed basis for the 23-24 school year. B6 is a recommendation for the approval of the following classified student worker for the 23-24 school year. And C1 is a recommendation for the approval of the following administrative termination for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, I'd like to take a motion on the personnel agenda.
I'll move to accept superintendent item 4C as presented.
I second.
Been properly moved by Ms. Moore and second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion? Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes, the item is approved, removing item B3, the second name on that list.
Thank you.
And discussion follow-up items update. We talked about having a retreat to discuss our way ahead on the remaining of our ESSER dollars and reviewing some of the programs that we put in place with ESSER, because we need to know what of those were effective and are there any changes, adjustments, and what are the opportunities we have left with the remaining ESSER dollars. So, board, do you have dates available? And we talked, as always, we try and keep Thursdays open, or it would be a Saturday half morning.
Are we looking for the month of September?
The month of September, we can look toward the end.
The end,
What,
maybe?
what we would like,
Yes.
if possible, I did have conversation in our meetings that we've held, and myself and Ms. Allen have talked about this. We would really like the opportunity to gather the information that you need so that we can make the best decisions that we can. We would like for you, if possible, to look at November 9th.
We really would want to have it in October at the latest.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah, President Jeter
Yes,
Freeman,
Ms. Moore.
the information that the superintendent is referring to, we can submit information to her now for what we'd like to see and the questions that we may have regarding the ESSER. And that's the balance of the ESSER. And that way, when we do meet 1st of October, we'll be able to, she'll already have the information.
we know what, we have a good idea of what you're asking, but for example, our pouches. You know, I've given, the high school the first quarter to see their numbers. Some of the things like we do have some data from last year, how things work, but we were hoping to gather some data for this year. So if we could look at October, maybe a little later in the month, if possible. And I can say another thing we could do. We could maybe have a shorter meeting to, like you said, discuss exactly what you want, share what we already have, and maybe do a second part to
We
it.
can
I
split
think
it
that would be,
into
that
two.
would work. because-
Okay,
Yes.
and maybe we just have, instead of like a 4-hour
Right.
retreat,
2 hour.
maybe do a
A
2-hour.
part one and a part two.
Part 1 and part 2 would be helpful?
I like that.
Okay,
Board, are you all good with that?
okay.
And if we could do it on a Thursday, that would be great, an
Yeah,
off
that'd be
meeting
great.
opposed to a Saturday.
Wonderful, yes.
Oh, I like that.
And
Board,
that's given
Yes.
everybody's schedules.
Mhm.
So today's the 7th, so we would be talking the 28th or the 14th.
you're talking
So we said
October?
Thursdays, Ms. Moore.
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry, I'm looking at,
Yes.
you know what I'm looking at? September,
Saturdays.
okay?
Okay.
Thursday,
We're talking about October, right?
October.
it'd be a
Okay.
12th or a 12th or 26th.
The 12th is better for me.
Me too, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna be
the
here.
12th is good.
Okay, the 12th.
Yeah.
So let's play in Ms. Cherry.
Are you
Okay.
okay, Thursday the 12th?
Mr. D. Okay, so Ms. Allen, you're, okay, so we will plan the first part for October 12th.
Okay.
Is that a retreat? That's a retreat,
That's a
correct?
Would that be
Retreat.
5 to 7?
5:30?
Yes.
5:30 to
5:30.
5:30 to
7:30.
7:30.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And then we'll decide on the second meeting after, at that meeting.
Mhm.
Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes. So board, if there are particular items you would like, please send those now so that they will have time to gather all the information. Any other discussion items? I had one, because I had a couple of parents to approach about our, and I discussed this briefly with the superintendent, our eligibility requirements that we, the board, adjusted from what OSHA is. And I appreciate that you sent us those numbers, Dr. Cosby. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
But there was, need the comparison, so maybe a year or two prior and at least going into last year, what those numbers are. As a mother of one of those students that were ineligible, explained, it's more than just the sport. And I don't know that the students get to practice
They do.
when they're ineligible, so they still get to show up and practice.
Yes, that was one of the things, one of the questions that you had asked me, what
Right.
happens with those students? They actually get to do everything, except play in the game. And that was because they still want to build that camaraderie, that team piece. So they, can practice, they actually can stand on the field during the game, but in regular clothes, so that they're still there to cheer on their teammates. They're still seen as a part of the team. And that has been seen to encourage them to try to get their grades up. So they are allowed to do those things. They also, and I do have numbers from last year and from, so that would be 22, 23. No, yeah, that's what I sent.
Yeah, you
And
sent
then
22,
I have
23.
21, 22.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember, prior to 21, 22, the first year of COVID, they did away
Right.
with all, qualifications. And then the second year back, the second semester when we returned, that's when we changed over. So, I do have what those numbers were. And so we had in 21, 22 for the high school, we had 14 students who were ineligible, but we had 44 who were ineligible at interim, and only 14 who were ineligible in January. And then,
So 44 in the fall?
Yes, this is in the fall. That was fall sports. It was a total of 101 athletes. No, I'm sorry, that is spring. My list just went over to a second page, yeah. So it was high school girls basketball, freshman basketball, JV basketball, varsity basketball, cheerleading, wrestling, swim for a total of 101. 44 were ineligible at the interim, and then actually ineligible at the end of the season was 14, the highest number being 4 students who were in bowling. And then the sports continue for the next season: girls softball, boys baseball, co-ed track, and tennis. We had 60 students total, 16 who were ineligible at interim, and 1 who was ineligible March 25th when they had to make the decision if they would participate. So that was 21-22. And then at the middle school, we had 75 total athletes, cheerleading, girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, 75 students, 8 ineligible at interim, and only 1 ineligible in January, second quarter eligibility. And then for third quarter eligibility, girls softball, boys baseball, and co-ed track, 81 students, 21 who were ineligible, and 4 who were ineligible when it was actually time to make that determination. And same with fourth quarter eligibility. The middle school cheerleading, football, volleyball, we had 133 athletes. We had 19 who were ineligible, 5-10, which would have been probably near the end. Ineligible at the end of fourth quarter were 7 students. Of those 7, 4 were volleyball and 3 were football. The cheerleaders were all eligible.
And I guess it would also, and I sent those follow-up, but it was at the last minute, so I don't expect you to have those answers now. But if we went off of what OSHA and what they're competing, their peers, what would those numbers be if we used OSHA standards, which are the state standards that the other students in the other districts that they're competing against, then it's equal. And I'm gonna be honest and say that we know that our students come with some issues. We know that when we look at the report card, we're not there. And I appreciate and I fully support that our students will be at that higher level. But for some of those students, it's more than just the sport. It's more than just the camaraderie with their peers. It's also mentoring that's happening that we might not know about, but they show up and they get additional supports from a lot of their coaches and things that we can't relate to. And so to put them to say, Trotwood, we're gonna hold you to a higher standard than what the state is holding the rest of the students. We need those supports regardless of changing it.
Well, I would like to clarify, because I did check
Okay.
on it. OSHA doesn't have a GPA.
Right, they don't have a GPA, but
Right.
they have so many classes that you
And that's-
have to be, right.
And that's what we have as well. They have to pass 5 credit courses at the high school to be able to participate, and at the middle school, they have to pass 4 1-credit courses to be able to participate. When I say they don't have a GPA, they made that determination 25 years ago, and I looked into it. And so each district was allowed 25 years ago, and a lot of them never made a change, whatever they determined was what they said it was. I think when we talk about, what decisions the peer schools have made, I don't know all of the decisions, but what I do know, and it's the same way here in Trotwood. I mean, our coaches, our teachers, most parents, we've had 2 parents come up, because they had students with 3 Fs who are not eligible. And they didn't want them to play, they wanted to know, were they gonna get tutored so they could be prepared to play?
Right.
I worry that if we change it back to a 1.0, we may pick up 1 or 2 students, but the problem, from my standpoint,
Right.
is that then they have nothing to strive for because they already have it. And oftentimes those students, once they finish that sport, they don't go back and get the 2.0. They don't keep going. They just stop. They stop participating in class. They stop doing everything because football's over. We've seen that with cheerleaders. We've seen that with some of our students in particular. Our parents at my Heroes of the Household, you know, they said they want us to hold their students to higher expectations. Actually, when they talked about wanting to leave, it wasn't because we were being too strenuous. It was because we didn't have expectations of them as parents, and that they felt like we weren't holding our students to high enough expectations. So I think that is my bigger concern. If it were to get out in the community that we went to a 1.0, that would be the question. And we say in our mission statement, you know, that we're gonna have a rigorous curriculum for all students. I don't want us to make the selection about what student is okay to let them play at a 1.0. They can be, you know, involved with the other athletes, with the coaches. They will have study tables. They will have the opportunity to be tutored. I just worry that we'll miss those opportunities. And I did talk to some of the principals about that. Can't you still mentor students striving for a 2.0 instead of a 1.0? Can't you still have those types of conversations? And of course, you know, they can. I just feel like, I sincerely feel like, because, you know, I do not want to go against my board for anything.
And this is a
This one.
discussion, and I
Yeah.
really would like,
Some
Yeah, I
input.
agree.
I would like board, because I don't want it
Okay.
to just be me.
Right.
You know, I've only spoken to 2 parents. I'm not gonna say
Right.
those 2 parents are representative of the total.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm voicing and bringing
Right.
forward, as I said I would, their concerns as a discussion.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
sent those questions to you.
And we may
But,
want to
yeah.
survey the families, you
So-
know,
Yeah.
as an option.
If you don't
Yes.
mind, Madam President, I agree with the superintendent, and the reasons why I say this is because my brother is at the high school, and he started off the year not so good. He's not doing well at all. And I'm understanding as a new guardian of things that excites him, that gets him into, I guess as a parent, you guys know what gets your kids going, what makes them motivated. And I'm still learning that. And if I continue to accept less of him, he's never going to learn. And he's never going to be a productive adult when he finally decides to move on. And I think holding a standard, it's a minimum standard to me. And also we need to look at what is being offered with the sports. Do we have study halls available for the children to work on work right after school? I don't know all the details in regarding to sports, what we're offering right after school to make sure that the children are successful. But I do believe that I remember seeing a neighboring district do this, and the backlash they got from it, and how a lot of the public felt that we were setting our students up to fail. We were not allowing them to reach their high potential. I think setting this standard and also identifying areas that we can be an extra assistance to the children who are playing sports, I think that should be the conversation. And you know me, I always love to talk about children with special needs and who's in special education, IEP, and things like that. And I understand a lot of children don't learn the same. A lot of children don't like to be in the classroom. They don't like to do things virtually. So it's a host of things that we need to look at to see how we can make sure our children are successful. So I'm in support of the superintendent of making this initiative. And of course, Trotwood is known for its great education. And if we can be all about sports, but at the end of the day, they're going to say, did we prepare our kids to be good citizens? Are they college ready? And et cetera. So that's just my little input in that.
And it's not just sports, right?
Yeah.
Let me clarify that. Is it only sports?
That
Or-
has the,
Right.
GPA requirement. Yeah, unless you're like National Honor Society, things like that have a
Right.
GPA.
Those, but,
requirement.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's the only one that has a
okay.
potentially low.
I have a comment. I understand that we want our children, we want to prepare our children, and we have our mission statement. But what do we have in place for our students who are ineligible? Now, I know that we said we have study table. We have it, but how many students participate?
In what? I'm sorry.
In study table or tutoring, how many students actually participate? Where is it documented that they are participating and trying to reach that 2.0? We can say all day long, yeah, we have this and yeah, we have that. Is it implemented? And those are the numbers that I want to see, because if we have study table but we have no one there to implement any type of studying, then what good is it?
Right.
If we have tutoring, but there's no tutor that's tutoring, what good is it? How effective is it? And you have to have documented participation and documented numbers so that we can say, this is what we're doing, this is what we've offered, and this child comes and this child's GPA has been raised, or, you know, we can say we have a lot of things that are in place, but until we know the numbers of who is actually doing the tutoring, who is actually there doing study table, ensuring that the students of all sports are participating, because I hear a lot about football. What about soccer? What about, you know, the swim? What about I hear a lot about football and the cheerleaders, but I'm talking about overall all sports. What documented participation do we have? Who are the tutors?
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, I can get you that from last year, because this year, of course, is starting up and all, so I can get you that from last year, and how many students participated, and if that made a difference. And I believe that they did participate, it did make a difference, so I'll get those numbers to you. I also want to say that, you know, when we talk about the kids needing the support because they want to participate, those are the kids that I believe that will show up. I believe when we look back at that, you know, roster of who came and where they made a difference, it's going to be the kids who were motivated, you know, internally to really want to do it. I know some kids, and it's a long time ago, but when I was in school, that's all they did come for was sports. But if that meant they had to have a 2.5, then they came to school every day, struggled to get that 2.5 if that's what it took. They met with their friends, they did whatever it took because they wanted to play.
Yeah.
They never thought that we would change the, you know, would lessen the requirement. They just tried their hardest to get there because they wanted to play. Those were the kids who came every day and who came to tutoring. So I believe that that's what we're gonna find. We're gonna get last year's numbers, and we're gonna continue to monitor this year's numbers.
Madam
So
President.
I will get
Yes.
that information to you.
Madam, Dr. Cosby, I know I graduated 10 years ago from high school, and one of the things I saw the athletes do in high school, their coaches gave them a slip, and every week they had to get it signed by a teacher with their updated grade, and if they had below a C, they were not playing in that week's game. And that's an initiative that we can probably, is study table tutoring mandatory for our athletes?
If they're ineligible, they are mandated to come 2 times a week.
And
They could come more, but they have to come at least 2 times a week if they're ineligible and they want to play. And it's not, and I said athletes, but actually the tutoring will be open for any student.
Well, and I only say athletes because we're talking
Yeah,
about
because
the
we're talking
required,
about
yeah.
athletes. But I just want to make sure that the board was aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually have left out a small sect of musicians that take
Oh,
pride in
man.
getting a GPA there. And if you come to Trotwood this year and you think you're gonna come in here and we're gonna degrade our children by giving them a 1.0, and if you think I'm gonna compart that and try to get that to like make sense in my head, and in the event that this is a previously recorded situation, this is only one board member stating this. I do not represent they fast forward when they record and they make them say that. I do not represent the whole board in my statement. I only represent me, blah, 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 right? But this is what I'm saying. We're not doing that here. We're not going to backtrack. We're not Michael J. Fox here going back to the future where we get a 1.0s to be Michael whatever. We're going to be Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, whatever Michael you want to be great, right? We have athletes that are principals. I've seen athletes here that probably could have went college that are teaching our children now with those gifts from God. I've seen teachers that probably could be in a jazz band if they wanted to have a side gig. I've seen teachers that have professional boxers and basketball players with Chris Wright and all these random people to give back to the community, and Michael Wrights. All the Wrights around here give back for some reason. If you got R-I-G-H-T or W-R, you give back. So what I'm saying is, with all those great acronyms and lists of stuff, we're trying to dare to be great here. I know people have seen us right-sizing, but this year I'm more calmer. My mind is poised for we got all types of stuff going on this November. So what I'm thinking about is, Madam President, I'm digressing, but please, let's stop this 1.0 stuff. And hopefully I'm in solidarity with my board when I say that, because I believe the superintendent, and this is where I look at you, Madam Superintendent, I believe the superintendent has this one. 1.0, it's almost laughable to me, but I don't want to disrespect parents. Parents, if you hear this, Sidney Davis Jr. was saying that we want more for your children than a 1.0 here. It almost is making me want to get emotionally upset about that. Passive aggressively, listen to me, please. 1.0 is not happening here. And if you don't like it, then I probably think we might need to go vote this November for a different board. Because 1.0 is just so, yeah, and I feel like I'm talking with my hands on that one, but I digress, Madam President. If you feel different, I don't think you do. But then we got musicians, they're striving for 2-point plus. Just because you want to make a touchdown or shoot a basketball, please, you can use those God-given gifts to take a pen and just come here and get that free tutoring that we offer. We pay these teachers a little bit more just to stick around sometimes. And then they do it for free. They use their own money to do this stuff sometimes. And then we feel bad and have to try to figure out what's going on. So, like, just please, I digress again. Last
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Lord.
Any other board comments?
1.0.
Board question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Are we just holding athletes to the higher standard? What about all the other supplementals?
I think we discussed that when we did
I'm
put
just
that
curious.
policy in place.
Well, like I said, there are some, like cheerleaders, when they apply, they have to have a certain GPA put on theirs. You know, all of our NHS kids have a 3.5 or
Yeah.
higher.
And all of those have,
What are
their,
NHS?
that's the National Honor
Honor
Society.
Society.
But
Okay.
those
Yeah.
are
Yeah, but I'm
different.
talking about all supplementals. I'm talking about any activity that a student would want to participate in, because here's what I hear the majority of the board saying and the superintendent, and it makes a lot of sense. We want to hold our kids to a high expectation and high standard, but just athletes? I mean, so I'm curious why we stop there and not have that same expectations for all of our students who are participating in extracurricular.
So I think.
And I think-
I mean, I'm just curious.
If I
I'm
may,
just-
Yeah.
I was bringing forward concerns of some parents. And to those parents also is that, that you remember mandatory tutoring. There are some things, you know, we as parents have to make mandatory for our students to show up. But on that other end, I wasn't aware if we had the tutoring in place at the high school where those parents were from yet. So I
Yeah, we're-
couldn't,
We're getting that together right now.
yeah, I
It's
couldn't
posted.
answer that.
But Madam Chair, since you posed the question, why is it good for some but not for all? I'm just
I
asking a
mean, it's a
question.
board
Yeah, well,
discussion.
I
and
was,
Go ahead.
for me, the topic of discussion was regarding OSHA and sports. That's why I didn't ask any other question in regards to any extracurricular activities within the school. I was just keeping at the topic at hand, when I asked my questions and my concerns about that particular. So I just wanted to be clear on that. That
Well,
piece.
again, mine was just a question, and really, I'm curious why we stopped there. If this is, I mean,
Yeah.
because we want, our overall vision is 100% success for all of our students. And we have this expectation of the 2.0, which I think is adequate. I mean, I think it's good, it's a target, they're shooting for the stars, you know. Honestly, they want to do better, they learn. But why do we stop there? Why don't we carry that out consistently through the district? And kids who participate in other activities or extracurriculars, they can, like they say, they go to practice, they do all those other things. They can still do their extracurricular, but if they wanted to be in, I don't know, one of the extracurriculars, band or choir or singing or some of the other supplementals that you will be bringing to this board, why can't we say the same for them? They deserve to get the same tutoring and have the same fidelity in learning like anybody else. And they can still participate, but maybe they wouldn't be able to, for that particular concert sing, or maybe get the grade for that week to see if they are where they should be. That way we're not just, I know we're talking the OSHA thing, but when I look at the district holistically, and the superintendent did mention our overall goal and our mission statement, why do we stop there?
Well, when I think about a whole lot of the other supplementals do already have things attached to them, and typically it's higher than a 2.0. Traditionally they are. I have a leadership opportunity here for Leaders of Tomorrow that I was gonna mention under my under my comments, and it's for the Dayton chapter of National Black MBA Association. They have a leadership group, but you
Right.
have to have a 3.0 or better.
Yes.
Most of them already hold those. The types of things that you've mentioned, as well as, let's say, art and things like that, I mean, we could set that for our students, but I think sports is a totally different, everything about it is pretty much set up differently, but, you know, that is something that we can discuss as a group, you know, all of us, maybe when we have our retreat or something, and because I don't want to speak to it off the top of my head, you know,
Right.
because that would
Right.
definitely be off the top of my head. A lot of those are academic related, they're already associated with the class, so you're in art class, you take, you know, art club, government has, you know, so it's more of an enrichment than it is, this type of participation, like football is extracurricular, some of those are considered co-curricular, so they're already a part of the students' curriculum.
And as a thought, and I was just thinking through this, and I don't know, because this is a discussion, but those athletes, since they have the Ohio School Board, Athletic Association, they're competing. So a lot of our other, we had debate clubs
them
that
do.
used to compete.
Yeah.
Our swimming,
Some do.
they would be included because they compete.
My question is, can we just take a look at
Oh,
all of them?
definitely.
Because those
Yeah.
supplementals are gonna be coming through this board, and with a full-fledged explanation on when they're gonna meet, the number of kids, all of those things, so that the board can make informed choices, Madam Chair. And if we can look at what those requirements are, and what the expectations are for those supplementals as well. I just think that sometimes we get so pigeon focused on sports that we forget that we have a lot of other kids that do other things here too. That same expectation holds true.
Well, I know, okay, so the band has set
I just don't know what they are, and I'm
a
just asking.
GPA requirement
Maybe that'll be something that the superintendent can share,
Sure.
because I just,
For
again,
all of them.
it's just a question. That's all it is. It's not an argument, it's not a debate, it's a question. Which is
Okay.
what we're here for, to ask questions.
So, Dr. Cosby, can you give us
Find
that
the-
information?
Yes. I can ask that.
And thank you for sending the other information.
No
Yeah,
problem.
The parents were not sure on the tutoring that was available and when, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Even for those, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, may I say
Yes,
one more thing?
yes.
And even for those kids that are in those other extracurriculars, it would be great too. I mean, I know we communicate what we have, but as an extra additive, okay, I'm getting a B, I might wanna get an A. And I have all this extra supports in place that we have, not just for students that are struggling to hit the 2.0 mark, but for any of all of us. That would be good information.
Yeah.
They might be trying to get scholarships, what have you. So I wanna look at the academic pieces, which is one of the major reasons we're here as a school district.
Okay.
I have one other thing, speaking about the band. So, I was at the Fairmont game, and our band was not present. I know you sent us an email, I know you did. But if football players can suit up in equipment, if the other schools can have their bands there, it just looked like we were our students were punished because it was too hot. So the decision was made that they don't travel because of the weather. That was troubling for me.
I know,
It
and me and
was.
you talked about that. And I did look into it. Since Mr. Bean had been here, his prior school did not require travel. He, was not aware that that was an expectation, so I will, accept that. And we have had that conversation, about the fact that they can travel. When it is hot, we do have to take precautions, and they had precautions for the football team. If it had stayed hot as they thought it was going to, actually, it turned out to be a rather nice night. The clouds came in, and it wasn't bad, but the anticipated, heat was supposed to be a lot more than it was. So, and truthfully, had it been that hot, they probably would have had to do something, even with the athletes on the field. But he does know that that is now an expectation, and so they will be at away games. I think he has asked, if he's going, and we've approved 2, away trips for him to take, field trips for him to take the band. And, I know one falls in one of our away games. It's in Cincinnati, and they're supposed to leave very early the next morning. And so, we're having a discussion about if they can make that work or how that would look. But otherwise, if there's nothing else like that going on, he knows the expectation is to be at away games.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else under the board report? Okay, then we will move to treasurer's report.
Yes, I have a couple items this evening for you. In front of you, you'll have the treasurer's update for It has August the 10th, so I should have changed that date. But I have two very good announcements. The first one is the ESSER desk review, and that's when ODE calls the district and says, I just want to go over what you've been doing. I want to look at your receipts. I want to make sure that your paperwork's in order. We were notified on September the 1st that our district had 0 issues and 0 technical assistance, and 0 technical assistance that was included in the report. And I just said, big kudos to, particularly that goes out to Jill Adams, who's our grant facilitator, that kind of keeps all that in line. So just kudos to our district that we were able to get that from the ODE. The second one is, I put this in a certificate holder. Our district received a State of Ohio award for public records. And this is a big deal for our office, because anytime that someone asks for public records, we are required to submit that information. But the State of Ohio in the last couple of years the last 3 years implemented this rating. And this is the first year that we got all 4 stars, and what that means is that we responded to their public records requests in a timely manner. I actually implemented one recommendation to have a form so that it would be clear what they're asking for. And so I just wanted to let the board know that our district was awarded for last year, for the last fiscal year, the highest achievement in open and transparent government. So I just wanted to let the board know that. And then there was a couple other things. I'll be presenting next Wednesday in Columbus. And that was all I had.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for all of the recognition as we always get. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Come.
I just want to shout out to the awesome Treasury Department. I had the opportunity to support one of the young Dims. He does a grant writing class. And 3 of your awesome people were there at the class, getting continued education on how to write grants for the Trotwood School District, the do's and don'ts, of course, and what's coming down the pipeline in regards to grants. So it's awesome to see our district continue to work to provide good opportunities for our district. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now Superintendent.
All right, I'd like to say congratulations as well. That's really good stuff from Miss Allen. And I did hear from a couple of the people who went, Miss Skipper and
Yeah.
Miss Neese.
Yep.
I know we're in attendance to what you were speaking on. So I have a few things I'd like to say. That the great start continues. So 4 weeks in, and things still seem to be going very well. So I'm excited about that. I did want to let you know that we have put in the order for the high school labs, which we've talked about. I have the information for you, and you will be voting on it at the next meeting, because it is over $50,000 purchase. So we have the quote for purchase, assembly, delivery of mobile science tables and chairs to continue our process of upgrading science labs in Trotwood-Madison High School. The tables will replace the current units and provide the ability to move students around in the classroom during class time and science experimentation. Teachers will have the opportunity to reconfigure their classrooms with various setups to ensure the highest level of engagement and student monitoring during instruction. The request for the tables is not to exceed $95,000 for purchase, labor, and installation. Additional funds are added to the request and will be used only in the event of an unexpected ancillary cost. Upon arrival, the company will work with the science department and the operations department to ensure instruction time is not interrupted during the school day. So I do have copies of the quotes for you to look at so that you'll be prepared, for the vote.
Do you have a picture of,
Um,
that
I can
what the new
send you a
rooms?
picture because I
Yes.
have seen it, so yeah, the picture does exist. It's not included, in the quote.
And what's the timeline on it? When do we think?
Well, we're hoping to get it in here as soon as possible, but I would imagine, since he was saying they're trying not to, interfere with school, it may be around the holidays to
Okay.
do the installation. And then, I wanted to let you know that the golf outing for the chamber is tomorrow from 8 to 1. Our Chamber of Commerce in Trotwood. It's their major fundraising event, and so we've participated in it for years, and we're excited to be participating tomorrow. I serve as the vice president, and the president won't be there tomorrow, so I have to welcome the golfers and do the things that she normally does. So if you're looking for me, I will have my phone with me, but I will be doing that piece of work tomorrow. It's very nice for us because our Trotwood National Honor Society students will be there, 5 of them to ride the golf carts and to help out. And last year, I know they were very good at doing that. I anticipate we'll have a great day tomorrow. Another thing I wanted to share with you, the NAACP of Dayton had their education night, and Ella Jordan Isaac, Tracy Mallory, Rachel Murdoch, and I attended, and it was a very good event. We got an opportunity to talk about the things in groups that we were doing here in Trotwood. We broke off into groups, and everyone was very pleased to see us there. It was just Trotwood and Dayton. Other districts had been invited, but we were the 2 that showed up, and they had a pretty good-sized audience. We did hold an Athletic Hall of Fame. If you'll remember, we were rushing out of here 2 weeks ago to attend the banquet. They did have the induction, and then they were honored at halftime during our game. We also honored Maurice Douglas at this most recent Friday game at halftime because he was playing someone else, but he was playing us. Unfortunately for him, he lost. Yeah, he lost that game. But that's very good for us. And last, I did already mention the Leaders of Tomorrow program, put on by the Dayton chapter of Black MBA associations, and they will provide mentoring, the possibility of scholarships, a lot of good things for our students. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now we will have comments from Mr. Anderson.
All right, so I don't know if everybody caught the news. Channel 7, Channel 2 in regards to he's a local artist. He's a rapper. He doesn't live here anymore, but he graduated and also played football. I'll send that clip to you. I did have the opportunity to converse with him through social media, but it was nice to see him being recognized and giving back to the Trotwood community for that. Also, I want to thank all the teachers personally, definitely in the high school. As I stated earlier, my little brother had a rough start this year. We're still trying to get some things in line and organized, but the difficulties that our teachers and administrators have to deal with on a daily basis, I commend them. And as I said to Dr. Cosby many of times, is my younger brother never gets special treatment at all. And I want that to be known around the entire district. He is held accountable as any other student within the district. And if he does something that requires him to be sent home, so be it. But the staff, the transparency with the staff before I was appointed and now is phenomenal. And I want to thank your high school leadership and teachers for the utmost respect and transparency for at the beginning of this school year. It just started, my gosh. But I just wanted to just give a kudos for that. And I think that is all I have for today.
I will pass that on.
All right.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis, comments?
Staff, officers, nutrition, service workers, transportation, servicers, pretty much everybody, custodial, our new hires, our new fires. All of it works for the common good. I'm just here to tell it to you straight up. And it's not necessarily a get down or lay down type of atmosphere, but it's one of those things where we just want the best for the children. We want the best for our staff. And our right sizing, I feel, Madam Superintendent and Madam Treasurer, is apex at this point. I feel like our millages are right there where we need them to be. I feel like our atmosphere is getting better and better. I'm actually having a different experience than him. My son has been giving me hell the whole time, like the last 2 years since his transition from COVID. That COVID thing threw my parenting off, threw my teachers and relationship off with them, communication frequencies, everything. Fast forward, because time is of the essence, I believe my child is on the way to honor roll for the first time. And this is his sophomore year in this district. This is my sophomore year in this district, representing us. I take great fidelity in this. I may not have the decorum or the professionalism down as you guys see, but work with me. Just yell at me, wink at me, email me, text me, FaceTime, I'll do it all. But communication frequencies are strengthening. That right sizing is really, I feel it. I don't know if you guys do, but I feel the changing. It's just in the air. But I really appreciate the staff that stayed, the staff that left. I hope that you're doing better endeavors than you did when you were here. Everything is a circle, and it's organic, with a lot of techno stuff. I really appreciate, and last thing I'm going to say, Madam President, I really appreciate seeing how the news and all of these media outlets pushed for all that technology stuff that you fought us over. And we didn't want to give it to you at first, but you pulled that tug of rope until it landed on your side. And we got all of those little, you can explain it to them better, but she got these things where we gave her, where we voted on it, where the phones go into these things, and they went all over every 1A suburb, 1B suburbs, but they didn't come to us. And I thought it was odd that you were the first to start this.
The phone pouches.
Yeah, the phone pouches. Madam President, I digress. You know what I'm talking about. But that was amazing to me that they didn't come talk to us about that. And I mean, I really didn't even think it was going to work, per se, because I got children that don't really pay attention to anything or tear my phone, but they are really working in the last year or so with this pouch thing. So that taxpayers' money really you did well by us. As a constituent, you did really good. So I digress. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Davis. And now Ms. Moore.
All I wanted to say was, to the food service workers, First Friday was awesome. It was amazing. We had quite a few of our staff folks come out from food service. Mr. Howard, superintendent, was there, was able to say some words. Thank you very much. And it was just a great celebration. But you know, it was really funny because the bus drivers came out too, and they were like, "Okay, don't forget us. Don't forget the bus drivers." But it was so good to see the teamwork, the bus drivers supporting the food service, and clerical and principals was actually there, and the secretariats were there. I mean, it's just like a one big great team. If you missed it, you missed a really great time. I had no idea how fun food service workers could be. Okay, wow. Wait till we get to the bus drivers, right? But again, it was just a really good opportunity to fellowship and to build relationships. So again, if you've not had an opportunity to come to any of the Trotwood First Fridays. They're every first Friday of the month, 5:30 to 7:30, and it's just really a plethora of fun, and it's an opportunity to connect and reconnect. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cherry.
Well, I would like to, first of all, congratulate our two students, student athletes of the month. Is it Jada Wyatt? Well, let me put my glasses on. Yeah, Jada Wyatt, a senior who was a leader on the volleyball team and a stellar student holding a 4.3 GPA. And we were talking about a 1.0, but this, I'm just saying, 4.3 GPA. Don't say it can't be done, because it's evident that it can be done. And to congratulate her mother, her parents as well, because I know it takes a village. Also a senior who was holding a 3.8 GPA, Cooper Chatfield, a senior on the soccer field. So congratulations to him. And I don't know if you guys had seen where Channel 2, I want to say congratulations to Isaiah Evans, who was featured on Channel 2 as a candidate for a bionic prosthetic arm. The one, you know, and he carries a 4.2 GPA. I mean, and his, yes, that's classic. A round of applause, yes. He has had several offers for school, but his perseverance, his commitment to himself, his family, and friends at Trotwood is absolutely phenomenal. I do know his mom personal. I mean, she's a very sweet individual, and I just want to say congratulations to her. I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. So I wanted to say congratulations to her. I love the way the high school students welcome the ELC students during the attendance month. I mean, just everybody working together.
Last week.
You know, last week, I'm sorry. The Aspire to Go Higher, that goes for everybody in the district, starting from the food service. I don't care what position you have, including the board. It's all of us need to aspire to go higher. It's about the students. So whatever we can do to uplift our district and uplift our students, we as parents, guardians, professionals, board members, that's what we need to do. That's what we're here for. So I wanted to congratulate those students, but I also want to make mention of the students who probably are not on honor roll but are still hanging in and striving. Keep that up. Keep that up, because everybody is not an honor student. I get that. And one of the things in my household is don't make all A's and flunk life. Okay? Don't make all A's and flunk life. So we need to put our arms around all of our students. So, and as I'm gonna use Mr. Davis' words, I digress from that.
I said one time.
We're off to a great start. I think a lot of comments have been shared. We have a lot of congratulations to our treasurer department, to our food service workers, to our students that Ms. Cherry never forgets to highlight that are doing great things. And to our heroes of the household, I got a chance to come out. Our parents were here. They were really engaged. And I think if we can do, and I know we're gonna switch to in-person and virtual. When we do in-person, maybe we can also do virtual for those parents that can't attend, to do that virtual link to them. And maybe to have some of those parents come and share, so that, I know we asked them to bring a friend, but maybe they can come and speak to the board about their experiences. I think most of the things have been shared, and that's probably all the comments I have. Now I entertain a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per Board of Ed Policy 0166 and ORC 12122. Action may be taken, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to go into executive session for the reasons stated.
A second.
Been properly moved by Ms. Moore, second by Mr. Anderson, that we adjourn into executive session. Ms. Allen, would you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Cherry.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes. We're now adjourned at 6:44 into executive session. And we will come back out to adjourn.